Alright guys, let's bust some head studs loose. Little bitty head studs on a little bitty motor. Success. You can smell the dirty, burnt old engine oil. There we go. Maybe. The likelihood of this just coming off is not my luck. Normally, I miss stuff and I have to squirrel around it, but it would seem that the simplicity of this little motor, I may have actually achieved this. First try. Nope. What are you stuck on? What are you doing? Is it you? Oh. First try. First try. And here we go. Big reveal. Dun, 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 dun. Look. And there's our point of failure. It is so milky and nasty down in there, obviously, because, you know, we got oil didn't need to be, but there it is. I mean, I didn't expect the pistons to look bad because the motor makes so little power. It wasn't really anything to just tear it up, but it's clean and the cylinder walls are smooth. I'm actually feeling decent about not messing with this. I wasn't going to anyways. Kind of the idea of what's going on here is once we put a very small amount of boost to the motor, we just want it to be like everyone else's. We want it to be a little old, a little wore down. We want to see like 5 pounds of boost in this little bitty turbo if an old wore out motor like this can sustain it. So that's the experiment right now. But this head gasket is trash. I'm just surprised that it's, I don't know, not surprised, but it's actually a multi-layer metal, like crush style head gasket. I don't know what I was expecting, but I had fears of something completely stupid, like a composite or a cardboard little gasket, like, hey, no wonder they fell. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of research on this before I dove into it. I was just like, we already know the gasket's blown. Let's get it apart, see what we're dealing with. Beyond the fact that that's nasty, it needs to be cleaned up. I need to flush all that out. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. Still see the machining marks in it from either the factory or if this has been done before. We got our cylinder head, it's looking pretty good. Let's flip this bad boy over. Boom, that looks pretty good. See anything that draws any attention to itself. The valves look very nice. That makes me really happy. So we have clean valves, and I think that we're gonna get away with just having the head flattened if it needs it. We'll have that checked out and replacing the head gasket. So good news for me, very rare, something I don't have to do. So we have the E07 tore down as far as we are going to be taking it for this particular situation. The head's off, the head looks really clean, the bottom end looks fantastic. There is some sludge that has been built up down in the cylinders where the coolant passages are. The blown head gasket oil getting down in there and cooking with the high temps of the coolant didn't do us any favors. That's the one thing that I really do need to address. I'm gonna do that off camera. You guys don't need to watch me spin this thing upside down and spray brake parts cleaner up in there. So that's something that will be done off camera. I got the crap ton of RTV Honda Bond from the previous owner that didn't want to actually replace the valve cover gasket. I gotta get that cleaned up. We're gonna get this to the machine shop, as I said, but this is looking really promising actually. I was afraid that the head gasket was blown for quite a while, but in the spirit of a single cam Honda engine, it didn't care. They're tough. I had a buddy with a CRX and he drove one with a blown head gasket for like 6 or 7 years. The car is probably still on the road today. He sold it and someone just kept going with it. These little Honda motors, they are extremely resilient and we are going to test that resilience coming up. Now that we have the E07 tore down, I can move into adjusting the power adder, adapting it to fit the situation that we have. I have it all broke down on my bench right now and I'm gonna take you guys over there and show you what I have going on in my head. So over here at my workbench, I have the factory exhaust manifold header for the Honda Acti, and I have a small displacement engine 660cc designated turbocharger. These go on 4-wheelers, snowmobiles, just anything with that displacement is what this turbocharger is made for. And if you want to look at the flanges, they are strikingly similar. The Honda Acti has a wider bolt pattern. This one has a bit of a more narrow bolt pattern to it, but the inlet and the outlet for the two where they will meet up are almost the exact same diameter. So my hope is to take this and adapt it to that and rotate and clock that turbocharger where this bad boy goes in its stock position, because it is awfully wide itself. And so we will be replacing that entire system with our turbocharger and run a very sleek, very small piping kit back to the carburetor and see what we get. So not that this situation is apples for apples at all, but this being a factory Honda Acti exhaust portion and this being the turbocharger, you can see that the turbocharger width and mass is not greater than that factory exhaust portion. So that leads me to believe that I can tuck this turbocharger into this factory position and not have any interference with any major components of the Acti truck. And then from there, you know, you just run your downpipe straight down, out of the way, and you should not have much complications. I say that now, but you can see where I'm going with this is that turbocharger, it kind of fits in place of that portion of the exhaust, and we'll be replacing it. So I just very, very roughly mocked the turbo up onto the header. I just like to visualize it and kind of get an idea, start brainstorming on how this is actually going to go down. Obviously in the future, we're going to have to make a very small adapter bracket to actually match this flange pattern up to the one for the turbo, because they are slightly different, but that shouldn't be crazy to accomplish. And at that point, it's just a little bit of plumbing, adding an oil feed return line for the turbocharger. It's not like as basic and straightforward as I'm making it out to be, but in the grand scheme of what I've had to go through to get the K-swap into the truck and redo the suspension, I think this, if we can pull this off, if this motor will take 5, 6, 7 pounds of boost, I think that this is going to be a much better and more viable option for the Honda Acti enthusiast that doesn't want to cut their truck up. They still want to be able to use it as a truck. Something like this would be more accomplishable in a smaller amount of time with less money. So that is my hope, is to actually make this work and to be able to contribute that to the Honda Acti groups and, you know, the American enthusiast. I have a feeling that over in Japan they have a couple of other little, like, I think it's the Honda Beat, maybe the Honda City, something like that. Don't get mad at me if I'm wrong, but they have fuel injected E07 motors, and I know they have little turbo kits for them, but those just aren't available here for us. So something like this would be very cool at a very low boost level, be very cost effective. So that is my hope in this side project, is to be able to contribute something like that, or at least a baseline, to see if it's even possible, because it should be possible. What are we doing with the K-swap truck? I'm leaning on the K-swap truck. You see me using it as a table. This is what we got going on with the K-swap truck. As the project's gone on, I'm just chipping away at purchasing all the parts that some I need, and then there are some that are just wants. I've been saving up and purchasing as I can as I go. You've seen a lot of these parts already. Recently, I put an order in with my buddy at Honda, and we just got in absolutely everything that you need for the inside of the K24 to refresh it. Everything from gaskets to piston rings, any little sills. He took care, put the whole order together for me and got it. So we have that here now. The last piece of the puzzle is I'm actually converting the oil pan setup from the K24 to a RSX K20 style oil pickup. That setup is just, it's better. It'll run a higher RPM. It's more simplistic, and it's the oil pump setup that you actually want in any K-Series motor. I'm waiting on that to come in, and until that gets here, I'm really not quite ready yet to start reassembling the K24. So while I'm waiting on that, that's why I've really dove into the E07, because it was sitting here, it was available, and I think it's going to be good for all of us to see what that motor will actually take and the limits that it has. So I just hit the mother load on fresh goodies from Honda. If you are doing something like this, you know that you gotta go genuine when you can. I have all the goodies for rebuilding this motor, well, almost all the goodies for rebuilding this motor. Let's look in the box, see what we got, and look at all these fresh parts. Let's go over what we got. Let's see the goodies. We got a long list here. We got everything from the water pump to the VTC actuator and just anything else I could possibly need. Let's get into this one. I think this is our VTC actuator, or no? Nope, that's the factory water pump. Gonna need that. We have fresh piston rings. Pretty sure this is the actuator. Yep. Brand new VTC actuator. Let's see. Thermostat housing. We got the chain and the guides. Let's see. Just parts, guys. Parts and parts and parts and parts. We have all the gaskets. We have the head gasket. We have the hot side gasket. Nope, intake manifold gasket, but you guys get it. Very slowly coming up on all the parts that I need to rebuild this motor. When the upgraded oil pump setup comes in, we will actually be able to move back into reassembling the K24, and hopefully at that point we'll have all of the E07 stuff back from the machine shop and have it ready to go together as well. My hope is to get both of these on par to be at the same place, so when I get into engine rebuild mode, I can put this one back together, I can put this one back together, and just move forward as a team with putting both of the engines back together where they need to be. And we'll move forward with the K-swap, and we'll start spitballing on the E07 turbo upgrade. All right guys, well I've made a mess today yet again. It's really what I am best at. I need to get the E07 cleaned up. It's got sludge. It's got grime inside of some of the coolant channels from the head gasket just being absolutely annihilated. I'm gonna keep working on that. I hope you guys got something that you're at home working on. Went over the parts that we got for the K-swap. As soon as we get that oil pump set up in, we're gonna start working on that. Get the K-swap put back together, start chipping away at the E07. We're gonna get it all done, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Whoops.